Episodic pivots are the turning points on a stock which can lead to a big rallies. One of the stocks which had an episodic pivot kind of an action today is NFS. Earning season is a very good time to find these kind of stocks, and today morning or yesterday night is when the earnings came in on NFS, and it was one of the stocks which I found and entered today. So here is a brief introduction or brief case study on NFAs as to why I selected NFAs and why it might have the potential to make a big move. So if you look at NFAs today, it was up around 17%, right? And it gapped up and then it kept up going up and it closed around 17% up for the day. But how can you find these kind of stocks? And it has a potential to make a bigger move uh, for a couple of months, quarters, or even more kind of a thing. How can you find stocks like this on the based on their earnings? And in order to find them, what you have to do is you have to focus on earnings which are essentially big game changing earnings. So this is my total case study which I wrote for the um, site, which my site where, like, can I say, this is the end of the day. It's an episodic pivot basically. Now this is how midday this thing looked. Somewhere around afternoon period, this is how the stock looked. And if you look at the longer term weekly chart, you'll see that for almost since 2021, for 2 years, the stock has been in a longer term consolidation, and it is today broken out. This is not end of the day, so this is like it actually closed end of the day at around 254 or 255. So this is what tells you that the stock was not really um, rallying into this kind of earnings, or it was like going sideways for a long period of time, especially if a stock has been going sideways. And if there is a good game changing catalyst, then it can make a big move. Now how can one find stocks like this? This is the starting point. This is what happened on NFAs, and this was yesterday after the market closed. NFAs announced earnings, right? And it had earnings which was 1.07, consensus was 84 cents. So the earnings was much better than the market expected. And as a result of that, you would see that here also. These are all free. Many of these are free sites. You can get the basic information about earnings on the fly without being a member. Zax, which is free site, you'll see that companies which come out with earnings and which have earnings surprise, they have a table. So NFS was one of the stocks which had like and also you have to see a positive reaction. In after hours itself, it reacted positively to that kind of an earnings, right? This is earnings whisper. Again, you'll see that it had 17% EPS surprise. The growth rate was 154.8%. The revenue surprise was 5.2%, and the revenue growth is 67%, right? So from here, starting like from here, then I went and looked at the details of it in MarketSmith, and if you see, this stock has been growing very rapidly. Stocks which can grow sales at this kind of figures tend to make bigger moves, right? And it's not only growing sales, it is also profitable, so which you can see here. And it's highly owned. So when it is owned by so many funds, typically these kind of stocks are not the kind of stocks which can make really rapid rise. Like some of the EPs can be such that they can make 250 300% move in a very short period of time. NFS is unlikely to make because there are already 1700 funds which own it, but it's a institutional quality, good quality stocks basically, right? And then if you'll see, its profit has been trending up basically, right? Profit has been trending up. So that's where I do my analysis. Then if you have Fidelity, in Fidelity you can do much greater analysis. So if you go to Fidelity and you can look at a Compustat company research, and if you go through this research, you will see that like, and it has everything. It has like a sales history from 2014. As you can see, sales has been consistently quarter after quarter going up, so that's a good sign. And you can do all the analysis which you want to see. If you want to see other things like margin ratios or whatever. I don't really spend too much time going into that level of granular detail, but I do want to know if this stock has some sort of a uh, positive sales growth and nothing stands out as a negative kind of a thing. Profit margins, if they're going up, that is good. Typically you want to see good profit margins, operating margins. So if there are like rising margins and all, then it's a much better thing. And so you can go into more details, as much detail as you want on this particular thing. This is important related to its peer group. The stock is outperforming substantially. All other stocks in this industry are not doing as well. So that's another point. So based on this, before the market opened itself, Inaphase was one of the stocks which we identified as a possible EP. Another thing which we look for is how many analysts have raised their price target. So this is Inaphase today morning had 9 analysts raising their price target. So if you can see, if you see here, Inaphase energy price target raised 271 from 213, 275 from 255, and that's a substantial increase considering where the stock was trading, right? And it's trading at around 255, and there are saying around $50 more kind of a price target raises. So some of these price target raises were like really good. So all factors were lined up for a stock like this to make an explosive move before the market opens, right? So based on this, this is the kind of a stock which you can find if you go through all these kind of information and analyze and find a stock. And during the earning season, every earning season, the market finds new ideas like this. And when the market finds new ideas like this, what happens is those stocks can make big moves. If they are very well-known stocks and already established stocks, like this is not a new stock, it's been around for it's already rallied close to around 19,000%. So it's already a well-known stock, but like, and it is still holding up very well. So this can still make a move. But if you have a stock which is very unknown and it has a very small capitalization and it comes in and meets all these kind of criteria, in those cases those stocks can really make really explosive move in a short period of time. Like example, in the last 2 years was one of them was Fastly. So here on it had good earnings growth and everything. It made 250% in just 2 months, right? So it made like Fastly made 250% in just 2 months. Or like say if you look at GRWZ, um, so here in 5 days it made 131%, and you could have found GRWZ using the same kind of an analysis which I did, and like from there it went up around 300, 400% or even more, like 500%. Or if you look at Farfetch, FTCH, from our earnings, it went up almost 700, 800%. So if they are smaller stocks, capitalization is lower, then they can make those kind of moves. So one of the ways, if you want to find big movers, is by using a methodology called episodic pivot, and systematically every day night looking for these earnings and finding these candidates which have all the factors like very high sales growth, very high earnings growth, consistent earning growth, sales growth, and a neglect. That means they are not really rallying, or they have a base, long base, and from which they break out. And if they break out with good volume, in the case of NFS today, there's a very good volume, like, and it is breaking out today with this substantial volume. 11.8 million shares have been traded. So as a result of this, if you see 11.8 million shares traded on NFS, so this stock has the potential to at least make a move for a couple of months or couple of quarters also, based on earnings. If you are interested in finding money using earnings, then I highly recommend spend time in developing a thorough framework for every day looking at stocks which are announce earnings, isolate the stocks which are something which is a game changing earnings, lot of analysts raising their price target, the stocks reacts positively, and then those are the stocks which can potentially make big moves, and that can change your trajectory of your trading, and that can change the trajectory of